Good afternoon, Brother Lau and fellow Kalena meters. Today is 8th of February 2026. I'll be presenting this YMBA Diploma Abhidhamma assignment for tutorial 4, question 3. The question is, quote, Sabbasaṅgaha anicca, unquote. Explain this quotation with an exposition of Paramattha Dhamma. So, introduction. Let's analyze the statement word by word based on the Pali app and later as a phrase. Sabbe means all. The detail from the Pali app, I leave it out. I'll just summarize it. Sabbe, which is plural, means all. Sankara means conditional formations or conditioned phenomenal. Anicca is a long A, so it's a plural too, means subject to change or impermanent. T is a quotation mark, means thus, so it is said. So, and Paramattha means absolute reality or absolute reality that cannot be reduced further. Thus, from the sentence, one may translate it as, thus all conditioned phenomena are impermanent. Hence, this Buddha's phrase, Sabbasaṅgaha anicca, declares that all conditioned phenomena are impermanent. While this statement is often understood conceptually in Suttanta Pitaka, the Abhidhamma Pitaka explains it in terms of Paramattha Dhamma, the ultimate realities that arise and cease due to conditions. So from the Abhidhamma perspective, impermanence or anicca is not merely change over time, but the momentary arising and ceasing of conditioned dhammas or sankhara in Pali. This exposition will try to explain the phrase that is Sabbasaṅgaha anicca by analyzing the term sankhara and anicca through the framework of Paramattha Dhamma, particularly Citta, Cittasika, and Rupa. So let's go into the Sabbasaṅgaha anicca from the Paramattha Dhamma. So in Abhidhamma, there are two levels of truth. One, conventional truth, Sammuti Satcha, and two, ultimate truth, Paramattha Satcha. Conventional truths refer to the terms like persons, trees, cities, tables, etc., which are useful designations or terms used for communication, and in all languages, as well as in the suttas. Ultimate truth refers to the irreducible phenomenal or absolute reality. There are four absolute realities, Paramattha Dhamma, namely consciousness, mental factors, materiality, and nibbana. Each Paramattha has its own specific characteristics, function, manifestation, and proximate cause. There are 89 or 121 cittas, 52 cittasikas, and 28 rupa. Based on the law of consciousness, citta niyama, which is one of the 5 natural laws, consciousness and mental factors are interrelated and have the following characteristic, namely, they arise and cease together. They take the same object, they have the same base. So the term sankhara in this phrase refers to citta, cittasika, and rupa, which are conditioned phenomena, or that they arise and cease due to causes and conditions. However, it does not include nibbana, which is unconditional or asankata. That is, it is not subjected to causes and conditions. While the term anicca in the Paramattha refers to the arising and ceasing of phenomena or ever-changing nature or in a state of flux. as every conditioned phenomenon arises due to causes and conditions of Pacaya and ceases immediately when those conditions end. This happens moment by moment, or in Pali Kana, which is very brief and short, even less than a nanosecond. In Abhidhamma analysis, this mind moment is further subdivided into three sub-moments, namely arising, presence, and dissolution or ceasing. These sub-moments span the entire life of a phenomenon. There is no carryover substance, but a sequence of continuity, result a persisting or everlasting call. Hence, from the Paramattha aspect, these Chitta, Chittasika, and Rupa arise and cease under certain conditions. That means they are conditional phenomena, sankhara, and they are ever-changing, anicca. The terms like the same person, the same place, the same thought, the same breath, etc., that are used in day-to-day communications are concepts or conventional language, and not the absolute reality. Similarly, the terms and meaning used in this phrase, Sabbasaṅgaha anicca, both in Pali and English, are also concepts. So let's try to illustrate with an example. So I chose 5 aggregates or Panchakanda. So in Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, SN 5611, the Buddha mentioned in the First Noble Truth and summarized it as the 5 clinging or grasping aggregates are suffering, Panchu Upadana Kanda Dukkha. In other part, indirectly also define being as comprised of 5 aggregates, Panchakanda, or Nama Rupa Kanda in short. The term Panchakanda, the 5 aggregates or cluster, refer to are the aggregate of materiality phenomena, the aggregate of feeling, the aggregate of perception, the aggregate of relation or formation, and fifth, the aggregate of consciousness. So from the Abhidhamma perspective, let's analyze the 5 aggregates. We look at the first aggregate, the aggregate of materiality phenomena or Rupa Kanda. There are 38 kinds of ultimate reality. The key and base materials are the 4 great elements, Mahabhutas, namely the earth element, which has the characteristics of hardness, softness, heaviness, or lightness. Second is the water element, which has binding and cohesiveness as their characteristics. The fire element, which refers to the hot, cold, or some call it temperature. And the fourth great element is the wind element, which has the characteristics of motion as well as pressure. The causes or conditions or the pacaya for the arising of rupa or even rupa kalapas, which is the cluster of materiality, are 4. That is, number 1 is due to karma or intentional volition. The second cause is the consciousness or citta. The third one is the heat, or in Pali is uttu. The fourth one is nutriment or ahara. That means the 4 causes are the karma, citta, uttu, and ahara. So this rupa reality, rupa kalapa and rupa kanda, change very rapidly, even though it is not visible to the naked eye, but it is discernible to those with very advanced meditation skills, like the Buddha and Venerable Sariputta Thera. For illustrations, food decay rapidly when exposed to extreme conditions like heat and moisture. And the so-called even stable metals like steel and diamond, they also decay, though over a very long period of time. Thus, we could deduce that rupa, rupa kalapa, and rupa kanda are changing or rising and disappearing. That means it arises and it ceases, as stated in the suttas and Abhidhamma texts. Hence, these are conditioned phenomena and are of impermanent nature. If one likes it, wants it, and drops it, it will be lost after some time. That means it changes and thus becomes stressful and suffering arises. Dukkha will arise from there on. There is also no solid, unchanging self that moves from one moment to another moment. That's why Buddha brought it to our attention that there is no self or non-self anatta in the Rupa Kanda and the Nama Kanda. The Nama Kanda here refers to the other four aggregates. So next, the second aggregate, the aggregate of feeling, Vedana Kanda. Generally in Abhidhamma, feeling has 5 affective tones based on the faculty or indriya, namely pleasant bodily feeling, sukha, joyful mental feeling, somanasa, painful bodily feeling, dukkha, sad or grief mental feeling, domanasa, and the fifth one is neutral, or sometimes we call it upekkha feeling. So when the sense object, the sense space, and the sense consciousness come together, there is contact, phasa. As independent origination, paticca samuppada, contact conditions feeling to arise. That is the phasa paccaya vedana. So when contact ceases, therefore feeling also ceases. Then another cluster of feeling will arise and cease. This keep on changing, arises and disappears, and continues on. So in Paramattha term, it is momentary feeling, mental factor, or Vedana Chittasika that arises with a consciousness and ceases with the ceasing consciousness. Hence, feeling is both part of conditioned phenomena and has impermanent nature. So is the aggregate of feeling. The third aggregate is the aggregate of perception or memory called or sanya kanda. Sanya makes a mark, and later this mark serves to be matched or recognized or even as a memory for later occasions. These marks are renewed or updated each moment. In the conventional sense, this is how learning process grow knowledge, as if it looks like a continuous stream. But from the Abhidhamma context, it is the momentary moments that one discrete moment conditions another discrete moment. Perception mental factor, which is the sanya cettasika, together with the other associated mental factors, is part of the discrete moment. Its arising is linked to and subjected to the arising of consciousness, and it ceases along with the ceasing consciousness. Hence, it's both part of conditioned phenomenon and impermanent nature, just like feeling, both as a mental factor and as an aggregate. Number 4 is the aggregate of volitional formations, or sankhara kanda. Mental volitional formation includes intention, cetana, and intention is the cause of karma, sancetana karma. And from Sister Sumitra's presentation, she quoted EN 6.63 as reference to sutta. So I managed to add it in. In Abhidhamma, Sankhara refers to the 5 mental factors, that is 52 minus the feeling and perception. Similar to feeling and perception, mental factors and aggregates. These volitional mental factors and aggregates also arise and cease together with the consciousness that they associate with. The fifth one is the aggregate of consciousness, vijnana khanda. All beings, except asanya satta, have consciousness, which is vijnana. Because asanya satta has only form, materiality, no mind, so no consciousness. Based on the law of consciousness, when a sense object, the relevant sense space come into contact, the relevant sense consciousness arises together. And when the conditions change, the consciousness also changes or ceases. This process is at the moment by moment level, and the change is very, very rapidly. Thus, the understanding and teaching of the causal relations, that is the pachaya, as well as the karma vipaka, that is the karma, law of karma, and the impermanence nature of this consciousness. That's how we understand this causal relation and the impermanence nature of consciousness. So from the perspective of dependent origination, volitional or karmic formation conditions consciousness, that is the pachaya, the sankara pachaya vijnana. And if we look from a longer perspective view, that is over three existence, the past volition or the past karma is the cause or the condition for the arising of the present existence, the present patisandhi, the rebirth consciousness. And if we look at it from another perspective, that is from the three mind moments, the previous mind moment of volition formation will conditions the arising of the present mind moment of the consciousness. And then the volition of the present mind moment will condition the arising of the next mind moment, that is the second consciousness. And this goes on moment to moment, as long as the conditions are there for their arising. Thus, for being which still has the six roots, namely greed, these are the akosala roots. And then non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion, these are the wholesome roots. The cycle of dependent origination will continue on ad infinitum. This is where dependent origination explains the samsaric cycle. Consciousness would keep on arising and ceasing, as it is a conditional phenomenon and has impermanent nature. When the consciousness itself is conditional and impermanent, the aggregate of consciousness would also be conditional and has impermanent nature. So in conclusion, from the Paramattha Dhamma perspective, Sankhara refers to all conditioned realities, namely Chitta, Citta-citta, and Rupa, which arise dependent on causes and conditions, and cease immediately when those conditions cease. Due to their momentary nature, characterized by upada, titi, and bhanga, these conditioned dhammas are inherently impermanent, that is anicca. Since Nibbana is unconditioned, asankata, it is excluded from sankhara. Therefore, the statement sabbi sankhara anicchati is fully explained in Abhidhamma as the universal impermanent nature of all conditioned phenomena, occurring moment by moment without any enduring substance or self, and is based on the ultimate reality, Paramattha Dhamma. I have to thank Brother Lau for his feedbacks and the suggestion, especially the opening and the closing of the assignment. With that, I thank you. May the Buddha dispensary dispensation last long. Thank you.
Brother Cole,
Yeah.
the law of consciousness mentioned the consciousness and Cetasika rise together. That is not the other one, meh?
Rupa, no, I think the law of Chitta Niyama is about Chitta and Chittasika, I think.
I cannot remember, but when we studied the book 2, right, it talk about Cetasika, then did he say that stanza is law of consciousness? I thought it's something to do with Cetasika. But you say based on law of consciousness, the consciousness and Cetasika, is it what law of consciousness say like that? Or you want to say, is it the law of consciousness mentioned about this consciousness and mental factors are interrelated? Does it really say so?
I mean, these are the characteristics of Chitta and
Yeah, that is the
Chittasika.
characteristics of mental factors. I know, but now if I read this right, based on the law of consciousness, consciousness and mental factors are interrelated and have the. He kind of mentioned the law of consciousness mentioned this, right? Right? Or he meant other things.
I don't know because I haven't come across specific, like say, okay, Chitta Niyama, what is Chitta Niyama exactly? Except to say that it is related to certain law. Just like, for example, they have the Tadaramana Niyama, and then they got the Javana Niyama. But I haven't come across specific book which describe in detail what are those Niyama, except that there are those rules. So I presume that since these are the four characteristics of Chitta and Cetasika, so I suppose it must be part of the Chitta Niyama. Just like when I read Javana Niyama, I tend to link it to Chitta Niyama also as a bigger group, yeah, because it's related to Chitta. It's just that Javana Niyama is more specifically on Javana, and then Tadaramana laws is more related to Tadaramana. Yeah. But these are still part of the Chitta, part of the Chitta and the processes of Chitta.
Yeah, I
So
know, but not sure. I don't know whether this is really called law of consciousness, where the law of consciousness mention the consciousness and mental factors. Hang on. Sorry, but so I'm not sure it is like that or not.
unless we are able to have some sort of a solid reference with regards to what is Chitta Niyama.
So my question is when there's no concrete evidence that the law of consciousness mentioned this, you put like this, is it correct or not? Even though we know that the consciousness and mental factors are interrelated and have the following characteristics. No, my question is whether this is actually according to the law of consciousness mentioned like this or not. Because if you mention like this, meaning that the law of consciousness actually mentioned this, but you also mentioned that you didn't find any what to say
It,
findings on this, right?
it is by deduction.
Ya lo, mana
Uh,
boleh oh.
so how,
Not
Brother
sure lah,
Lau,
not sure lah.
your opinion?
My opinion, I say tak boleh lor. Unless you got proof that it is actually said like that lah, then it's correct lah. But I don't know lah whether, my question is there such a law of consciousness mentioned like this? If not, then your own deduction tak boleh mah, right? Unless it's from somewhere mah. We cannot simply quote something and then form our own assumption, right? Even though we know the facts is like that, but whether these facts are according to that law of consciousness that you put or not. For me, I will accept when I can see the proof lah. It doesn't mean that what you write is wrong. What you write about mental consciousness and matter factors are interrelated, they are following characteristics, all these are correct. But whether these points that you mentioned actually are mentioned by the law of consciousness, that's my question only.
Brother Lau, your comment?
For me, acceptable. I don't know what you're arguing. I just want to answer the question because this question is how you understand this anicca. Right?
Okay.
Is it acceptable or not? If not, I supply my one to you. You go and read through.
Okay. Unless there are
Also about same about yours.
Ah.
Not much explaining about all the same thing also.
Yeah, but you always give us a different perspective of answering questions, which is very
Okay,
interesting.
let me let you view through first.
Thank you.
This one I mistake. I never go and correct. Okay, here explain what is this statement is about. Okay, I know how to read through. Then it talk about understanding a statement in context. It talking about karma and cetana. So Buddha clarified that it's not the physical or vocal movement itself, but the cetana within it that constitute karma. Then, similar to our brother, we are still talking about citta and cittasika. So in Abhidhamma psychology, every moment consciousness experience citta accompanied by several cittasika. As you all know, this one by now you also know. Yeah. So Cetana talk about the architect of karma. And then it talk about Cetana functional role. It coordinates, it shapes, and it determines. And B, it talk about how Cetana creates karma within the Citta and Cettasika dynamics. If I give you unwholesome Citta, and then wholesome Citta, and a neutral functional Citta. And then also talk about levels of Cetana in relation to karma. About Kaya Sankara, Vaci Sankara, Mano Sankara. Okay. Then talk about also the karmic stories and cetana. Abhidhamma describes as a karmically potent citta, leaves an imprint on bhavana, like in form of subconsciousness continue. This stored potential karmic is carried forward and under right condition ripens in future experience. Thus, cetana is a single mind moment and can plant seed for future rebirth, favorable or unfavorable circumstances. Then you talk about ethical and theoretical implication, responsibility, mind training, cessation of karma. That means you achieve nibbana, then everything ends. So here, conclusion, Cetana as a heart of Buddhist ethics. As this statement said, it reveals the karma as a psychological intention purpose rather than a fatalistic external law. So the rest talking about all the Abhidhamma term. And the other one talk about Sabbasaṅgaha anicca, exposure to the lens of Paramattha Dhamma. In this statement, Sabbasaṅgaha anicca, all contingent phenomena are impermanent. This is one of the most fundamental, frequently repeated teaching of the Buddha found in the text of Dhammapada. Okay? So understand this statement, you understand that is anicca, dukkha, and anatta. And then talk about Sankara and anicca. These all Abhidhamma term, condition, phenomena. Then anicca, what is it? Then Paramattha Dhamma, framework analysis, Citta, Cittasika, and so on. Your brother already mentioned about this. And how impermanent influence in each Paramattha Dhamma, Citta, consciousness, then Cittasika, Rupa, okay? Then three level impermanent, momentary, impermanent, continually changing, and then final dissolution. And then the condition nature of Sankara. Your brother say this one. And Nibbana, this one, dateless. And then the psychological and psychological implication. talking about anicca again. And meditative practice about these three things again. So statement is not philosophical speculation, but a direct truth about nature existence, like science. To the lens of Paramata Dhamma, we see that. So talk about avijjita nothing. And then finally, we must attain Nibbana to end everything. Okay, now this one. If you want, you can import into your whatever you want to add on.
Okay.
Very long and winded, this one. You want, you go and import in and put it in.
Okay. Brother Lau, every question you give us, you also do your own.
Wow, headache, this one, search and paste, search and
Wow.
paste. The one I don't want to do.
Serious, or we do one, you do four.
The one I do also. Yeah, quite sickening also. I say, you all ask for it, then
Salute.
the one you all take exam, no, I take.
Brother Lau, you have a system of writing which I find very useful, but when during the exam, I'm not too sure whether it's okay or not because
This one is for open discussion. Exam better write in essay.
because you have section by section,
Yeah, I know that.
which is very helpful.
You can digest it and import into your things, whatever you want.
Mm.
Okay,
Because you
then
also,
send it to you all. You can digest it.
Because you also explore subsequent chapters of the CMA, you see, about meditation and how to practice.
You go and digest because this thing, Abhidhamma thing, very wide topic. No end of study. Everything you can find new things. Abhidhamma is a very wide topic. No one person is good. So this is what I can gather, so can help whatever you all can, just take it.
But the Brother Lau, the front part, right? The beginning part, you actually talk about Chaitana, right? Only
Yeah.
the bottom, you talk about the Sabbasaṅgaha Anichati, right? So it's two different questions, is it?
Two different answer. One is
That's why
Sumitra
you
one.
go exam, all got different
Sumitra.
version one. It's up to the examiner. But if you can write that much, sure A one. Don't worry. The
So these
YMBA,
two questions combined together give the long question, long answer, or what?
you can come
How
out
about
whole
two
thing or
questions?
not. Talk easy. Exam, panic, don't know can come out everything.
Okay.
Right? You got 35 minutes for one question.
You
Okay,
have
I
to
go back and digest slowly and see whatever you want to build on.
good. Look forward to your
The Patana is very, very, very tough. I myself also, see bonkers. So try to, so many years never go and touch. You see the Patana, you more headache. This one still can handle. Hey, last time my teacher teach me Patana one. I don't know what he teaching. So very frightening as exam question. And talk. Now I try to get as much relevant daily application. Hopefully. Difficult. We come to the next lesson, then we see through. The most difficult Abhidhamma is the Patana. So it will be spread over 2 sessions. I can't complete. It's a very, very few hundred slides.
Brother Lau, if cannot remember the Pali word, okay or not?
Then write English. I mean, if you come to but in Abhidhamma question, they always said Pali. So you don't learn, you don't understand habis. Then you see the past year paper, I think only 5 or 6 only, for you to choose. 2 are, especially Abhidhamma, 2 are Pali paper. So you 2 Pali paper cannot, two question Pali cannot. Then you very limited choice.
I don't learn Pali.
Don't learn I also don't know. So you got very little choice. 5 or 6, depending on how they said. So if 5, die all must answer. But
That's why
you see the past year, I would say Sister Sumitra will already cover for you many duplicate question. So don't worry so much. Many duplicate question. Your sister Sumitra all shipping out for you. So you better follow all these questions and do it yourself, because it comes to choice. No choice, 5 questions to choose. You have to answer all of them.
just try something lah.
Okay lah, this one I send it to you all, and then you all go and digest it.
Still got one presentation from Sumitra.
Okay.
Okay.
Sister Sumitra, turn.
Hey, good afternoon to all. So it's my turn to read out my last question for the assignment. Before that, I need to thanks Brother Lau, proofread my draft and then give me very constructive and useful suggestion how to correct certain ambiguous concept, and then help me to rephrase certain sentences. So I start with questions. Question number 4. Cetanahang bhikkhave kamang vadami. Elaborate this statement with the help of the concept of citta and cetasikas. Okay, as introduction. The Buddha's statement, Cetanahang bhikkhave kamang vadami, is actually extracted from Anguttara Nikaya 6.63, Nibbedika Sutta. Identifies intention as the essence of karma. In Abhidhamma psychology, Cetana arises within a moment of consciousness and is shaped by the associated mental factors. This presentation will examine how citta and cetasikas interact to generate karma, whether wholesome or unwholesome, and how understanding this process is essential for mindful action and spiritual development. The role of citta, cetasika, cetana in the creation of karma. Okay. Citta or vijnana. In a way, the map starts with the interrelation between nama and rupa, or the name and form, on one hand, and the sensory consciousness vijnana on the other. As the six sense bases, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind are in contact, the sixth sense object, which is sight, sound, odor, taste, tactile sensation, ideas, and concept. Consciousness arises with sensory input, which is in the form of vipaka vijnana, or actually it is the citta, and it directs one's attention to the sensuous object. If the intensity of the impact is great or strong, it maintains and sustains it until a mental impression is permanently registered in one's memory. As citta arises during the process of recognizing the sensory input, one experiences only the overall effect of millions of such cittas due to that contact. For citta does not appear in isolation, but as a series of successive citta in the form of thought process, cittavritti. At the moment citta arises, it is indeterminate by itself. Citta arises simultaneously with a constellation of mental factors, which is the cetasika, which colors it by association it with whether wholesome or unwholesome roots, acting as the maker of destiny. As a result, vijnana is more than being aware, as 7 universal mental factors arise with any citta to identify the object. Vijnana is conditioned by the moral quality of the associated cetasikas. If one or more of the 10 factors remain intact, a mind automatically attaches to that distorted sanya or perception without conscious thinking. Now it comes to cetasika. Okay, there's one of the cetasika, vedana, which includes the feelings of pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feelings, and sanya, which is functioning or manifesting in identifying object by its characteristic, condition how the object is felt and labeled, influencing the tendencies that cetana will harness. Sankhara is another cetasika. It is our response to sensory input. Here, sankhara comes from the word san and kara. In other words, it's action that involve the unwholesome roots, raga, dosa, or moha, whereas cetana means to construct a citta with cetasika. Certain cetasika are called sobhana cetasika, which is beautiful mental factors. For example, when it's rooted in generosity, alobha, kindness, adosa, or wisdom, amoha. When volition arises with wholesome roots, which is kusala mula, it leads to good citta and propel wholesome karma. On the other hand, akusala or asobhana cetasika are greed, hatred, delusion, etc. When this unwholesome volition arises, it leads to the immoral or bad citta and propels unwholesome karma. Cetana determines whether an action is wholesome or unwholesome. It serves as the driving force for the choice of desired action in response to a particular situation, which generates the karmic energy that influences the result. In Samyutta Nikaya 27.7, the Buddha refers cetana to san cetana or defiled intention, whereas in Abhidhamma, cetana is actually neutral, but it can be wholesome or unwholesome depending on the associated cetasikas. Another cetasika, manasikara, attention, aims the mind. It is twofold, that is, wise attention or the opposite. Wise attention directing the mind towards the root cause or the origin of phenomena, especially in the perspective of sufferings. Viewing experience through the framework of the Four Noble Truths and dependent origination that leads to the dismantling of suffering, clarity of mind, and cultivation of wisdom. For instance, through vipassana meditation, one becomes aware and analyzes the presence of the four great elements, earth, water, fire, air, in one's direct experience of physical sensation, such as hardness, fluid motion, heat, or movement. This helps to deepen one's awareness and develop insight into the reality of stress or suffering, impermanence, and non-self. On the other hand, the unwise attention towards sensual pleasure and worldly gains arouse craving, promotes doubt and chaotic mental states. It indicates a deficiency in mindfulness and understanding of objects, characterized by attachment, a lack of insight into their harmful nature, and leading to the emergence of akusala citta. Sada, confidence, and panya, wisdom, are the two cetasikas that guide volition towards the wholesome mental states. With sada and panya as the guideline in adopting ethical practice, one may practice wise attention. For example, when one feels angry towards his rival or being upset by assuming being challenged, one reflects. The anger arises from my own craving and aversion. If I act on it, I will cause harm. Let me respond with patience and understanding. This leads to the wholesome cetana and skillful action. Hiri and otapa are the mental factors that play an important role in restraining unwholesome volition taking force. Mental factor virya empowers one to stay fast with the chosen course of action. Which type of cetasika are incorporated into the citta depends on one's unbroken factors and inclination or destination at that moment. The mind starts with a single sensory experience, but it expands rapidly into further thoughts about it and branches into other related areas. Then it prepares the mind to generate karmic energy. In Theravada Buddhism, citta vritti starts with the undominated citta, but gets contaminated if the mind gets attached to the sense object. The 7 rapid consecutive thought moments of jhavana determines the moral quality and the consequence of an action. The following diagrams of the Chakku Dwaravritti illustrate the process where we see when the visual object appears during the past bhavanga where the mind is in the resting state. The appearance of the object will trigger the arising of the vibrating bhavanga that will stir the minds towards the object. And then the flow of consciousness pauses at the arrest bhavanga. Eventually, the sense door, here is the eye door, turns towards the object. Then we will follow that the eye consciousness become aware of the object, receiving this information, investigating on it, making determination, and it is this 7 repetition of jhavana citta which generates the karma. Jhavana repeats 7 times. The intention chetana is actively shaping the karma. If wholesome roots are present, jhavana is moral. If unwholesome roots dominates, jhavana is immoral. And then if the impression is strong enough, kata lampana or the registration consciousness will make the impression being stored in the memory. It may return to the bhavanga or resting mind state if no further visual stimuli triggers the mind activity. This is just a revision. The practice that will lead to the cessation of the unwholesome and destructive pollutional acts is through the adoption of the Noble Eightfold Path, which encompasses right view, right resolve, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. This includes establishing right view as a guide that directs the cultivation of right resolve, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, etc., that help one walk the path with confidence and determination. Cultivating metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha, and nurture hiri and ottappa, consciousness and prudence for wrongdoing, so as they reshape the affective field, which eventually geared one towards skillfully generate moral or good intention chetana. Guard the sense door. Mindful seeing or hearing prevents reactive volition, which is prone to clinging, grasping. Apply sati or mindfulness and panya, wisdom, to see the intention at right arising moment and redirect them if necessary. Train oneself to see one's own intention at the point of contact. What am I about to do, say, or think? This is the right intention, Sabbasaṅgaha, in the Noble Eightfold Path. By training so, one recognize and refine intention at the point of contact. One refines one's karma and shape one's destiny. Practice clear comprehension. Regularly review, reflect on one's intention before, during, and after action to assess whether harm or benefits is intended and likely. you may refer to the suttas for more details. As conclusion, in summary, Chitta provides the knowing, Cetasikas provide the ethical coloring, and Cetana directs the action. The Buddha's equation of intention with karma underscores the power of volition in shaping our destiny. By cultivating mindfulness, wisdom, and wholesome mental factors, we can purify our intention, refine our karma, and progress on the Noble Eightfold Path towards liberation. That's the end of the presentation. And these are the references which is attached with the links which you can see them later. Thank you very much.
Okay, pretty comprehensive. By exam, you select what you need to give, because too long. So up to you. How much you can understand during exam is the time, how much you can present. So any question on this, any remark on this, or any want to point out or addition?
I admire Sumitra.
Think too long. Too many things inside.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's why you must select during exam which part you need to present. Very, very comprehensive.
Very good. Actually, the understanding, she's very good at pointing the relevant cetasika. Excellent. I like it.
it's very long-winded lah. Because for me, I'm just in the entry level. I need to give myself an overall picture what it is before I can answer the question. So I'm not sure I understand it precisely, how to answer them precisely. This is in the process where I learn about the concept. Sorry for being so long-winded.
I think it's good. At least overall, you are able to what you call highlight those key cetasikas, that are important towards the what you call the process of creation of karma. Because not many people are able to grasp it unless they are in a quite advanced stage. So for you at this point, you are able to grasp it. I think it's very good. It took me quite a few years before I can understand how these are interlinked.
It's actually a summary of my readings. It mostly come from Noble AI, and then with those footnotes, I refer to the suttas to counter-check. I'm not sure whether it's correct, but at least it helped me to understand the process.
At least from here, that's what the Brother Lau say. Subsequently, you can start to refine as you understand deeper or clearer. Then you can refine the flow. But otherwise, generally, from my understanding, yeah, those are the points that you highlighted are very good.
Thank you. Any more questions? If not, we will close the session.